Good afternoon, and welcome to the Commission on Unemployment Compensation, Unemployment Insurance Subcommittee. I'm Senator Adam Eben. I chair the full committee, and we have a vacancy in the subcommittee being the chair, most importantly. So I wanted to announce that I'd like to appoint Delegate Elizabeth Bennett Parker to chair the subcommittee going forward. And before she does, I just wanted to have some, first I think we should take the roll. So if you could call the roll.
Senator Eben.
Here.
Senator DeSteff. Delegate Marshall. Here. Delegate Bennett Parker.
Here.
Delegate Munden King. Julia Hammond. Doris Kraus Mays. You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I just want to thank everyone for being here. We're going to hear some important presentation today from the VEC on progress they've made, as well as other ideas for 2024 that we want to get people's reaction to. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our new subcommittee chair, Delegate Elizabeth Bennett Parker. Take your command post.
Thank you, Mr. Uber Chair. So I believe that brings us to number 4 on our agenda. We are moving quickly. So I would like to invite our commissioner forward.
My name is Mitch Mellis, and I'm the Commissioner of the Virginia Employment Commission. If I may, Madam Chair, I would also like to introduce very quickly Chief Deputy Commissioner Jeff Ryan behind me, and our Director of Unemployment Insurance, Susan Landis. Not present, though we've had planned for him to attend, is our Chief Customer Advocate and Ombudsman, Michael Abraham, who along with other members of the VEC team have been on the ground in Southwest Virginia, providing direct support to those impacted by Hurricane Helene. I will share a bit more about our efforts underway in the Southwest shortly. I'll begin by providing an update on our customer service efforts and achievements. Putting the citizen first has been a relentless effort, and we have and will continue to undertake. During the pandemic, the VEC, like other unemployment agencies around the country, faced an unprecedented surge in unemployment insurance fraud and identity theft, which necessitated stricter digital security measures. However, these stricter measures had the unintended consequence of keeping out many legitimate claimants. Finding a balance between preventing fraud and providing an easy and intuitive login process for our customers proved to be a challenge. So in January, the VEC partnered with a digital identity verification provider known as ID.me to add an alternative login method in addition to our native login method on our customer portal. Similar to how the TSA has a pre-check program allowing a thorough one-time identity verification followed by subsequently easier future identity verifications, similarly, ID.me conducts a thorough initial identity verification, and in subsequent logins, the customer is able to more quickly log into their account. Additionally, if a customer already has an ID.me account, perhaps from being a customer of the IRS or the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, for example, they can directly log in without having to register or open a new account with the VEC. This partnership has made it significantly easier and faster for customers to apply for benefits, file their weekly claims, and access important documents online. And it's had multiple positive impacts, improving our customers' experience. 90% of customers can successfully access the benefits system online using ID.me. The remaining 10% are typically identified as either fraud or individuals who have abandoned those attempts. Our online filing has reached record numbers. We've seen a 173% increase in online usage compared to the same week last year. Just last month, VEC was awarded a 2024 Commonwealth of Virginia Technology Award for this project and its outcomes in the category of IT serving the customer and the business. Moving on to our Customer Contact Center, As a result, in large part, to the ID.me initiatives as well as our outreach, education, and plain language efforts, total call volume in our customer contact center has dropped by nearly 60%. And we are seeing 62% fewer unique callers, or 62% fewer people simply calling us. With customers accessing the benefits system online, we've saved 9,300 customer service representative hours, allowing us to redeploy some of those staff members to assist with specialized projects, a cross-training effort intended to build organizational agility and agency resiliency. Our customer contact center is located 5.5 hours away in Southwest Virginia in Van Sant, and it has proven to be a hub of technological and operational innovation for the VEC. Some of the advancements of our customer contact center include self-service options for customers to obtain details about their claims and appeals, integration with texting capability to share information, and text direct links to our customers so they may easily click and log in. We've also deployed a new callback feature which attempts on at least 3 occasions to call a customer back if they elect to do so instead of waiting on hold. Our callback feature is seeing a 90% success rate. We also house VEC's largest adjudication staff in our Van Sant location. Give you a customer service update in more detail. I'll share a bit about our Chief Customer Advocate role, who has been extremely busy in the last several months, more formally known as the Ombudsman. In addition to improving customer service processes, we have also been continuously evolving and improving how we engage with our customers, community partners, businesses, and other interested stakeholders. Our Chief Customer Advocate ensures the needs and interests of those relying on the VEC for services and assistance remain in front center, working directly with the Commissioner's Office, our UI and Benefits Division, and working collaboratively with our Communications Director to promote and improve the public's knowledge of Virginia's unemployment insurance program and the appeals process. Additionally, they provide frontline, on-the-ground knowledge and assistance. Just in the past several months, the Chief Customer Advocate has worked with dislocated and other impacted workers and multiple employers to navigate through furloughs, layoffs, and other unique workforce issues. As you all likely heard, about a month ago on September 13th, Boar's Head shut down in its plant in Jarrett, Virginia, impacting a number of employees. Our customer advocate engaged the Boar's Head corporate HR team to provide information and guidance to the impacted workers. Over a 2-week period, the customer advocate and other VEC team members provided in-person assistance with initial filings and the overall claims process at the Emporia local office, helping approximately 250 claimants, many of which preferred communicating with our customer advocate, Michael Abraham, in Spanish, which he is fluent in. Our customer advocate and other VEC team members have been and remain on the ground since September 30th in Southwest Virginia in the areas devastated by the remnants of Hurricane Helene. The VEC is assisting customers with filing unemployment claims, and they are equipped with laptops, mobile hotspots, and paper applications to help individuals file claims and address questions related to unemployment insurance and disaster unemployment assistance. Additionally, our call center has worked extended hours. They've worked this past weekend and will work this coming Monday, a state holiday, to be available and provide assistance to those impacted. As I mentioned, VEC is actively engaged in education and outreach efforts to raise awareness of the Virginia Unemployment Insurance Program. We've distributed these informational cards in Spanish and English to the Commonwealth's network of Virginia Works offices. These cards provide a foundational knowledge of UI and provide step-by-step instructions for using ID.me to apply for benefits easily online. We're also sharing these materials through partnerships with our stakeholders such as social services and community groups. We are regularly posting educational content and program updates on our multiple social media platforms. And we are constantly working to simplify the communications we send to claimants and employers for clarity through our plain language efforts. We have created a customer escalation team which combines both customer advocates who provide support to individuals with barriers or those with other unique circumstances, as well as specialized customer service representatives, all integrated in a cross-functional specialized team with advanced expertise and greater autonomy to resolve issues so customers can get faster resolution and not have to contact again. We've also created a centralized customer contact management system, a single point of inquiry for the public as well as for legislative members, increasing the ability to track, monitor, and complete customer inquiries faster. Additionally, the agency is currently redeveloping our website to enhance the customer experience. As our primary public touchpoint, the new site will feature improved navigation, better accessibility, and plain language for easier use. The website will go live in January 1 of 2025. And as I previously mentioned, we've been seeing great success using automated text and emails with over 700,000 messages sent thus far for filing online, distributing information for mass layoffs, and other important information. Our automated dialer has been used over 20,000 times, informing customers on the front end of what number to expect the call to come from, so they answer, not anticipating spam, and making an effort on 3 callback attempts. In regards to our initial claim volume, this year we are projecting to reach over 130,000 initial unemployment insurance claims, returning to the pre-pandemic levels seen in 2018 and 2019. Virginia's unemployment rate for August was 2.8%, well below the U.S. national average of 4.2%. I'm very pleased and proud to report on the state of our adjudication division. We are consistently exceeding the workload demands of incoming claims, timely and efficiently. As the chart illustrates, both the first pay timeliness and decision timeliness metrics saw substantial improvement from the fourth quarter of 2023 to the first quarter of 2024, and we've maintained those gains into the second quarter of 2024. These results are a testament to our team's focused hard work and well-executed operational turnaround, leading to faster delivery and decision-making for those seeking unemployment benefits. The increased use of online claim filing has led to more comprehensive initial and weekly submissions, providing adjudication staff with necessary information, enabling quicker decision-making, and facilitating timelier first payments. I'm equally pleased and proud to report on the state of our appeals division. Over the past 10 months, we have decreased the average age of pending first-level appeals by 86%, from 539 days to 73 days. The last time the VEC was before this committee, we had 43,970 pending appeals. As of yesterday, there are 4,670 pending appeals, with 98% of them submitted this calendar year. Of those 4,670 pending appeals, 80% are scheduled for and simply awaiting a hearing within the next 2 months. Of note is that we are seeing incoming appeals coming in at a much higher level than pre-pandemic levels. In 2019, first-level appeals received 12,369 appeals. This year, we're expected to receive approximately 19,000 appeals. Both our adjudication and appeals divisions are leveraging business intelligence and automation technologies, such as dashboards to monitor productivity and performance, robotic process automation to replace manual tasks, and in appeals, digital exhibits have cut in half the time it takes to prepare a file for hearing. I'm proud to report that VEC has surpassed the national average of 74% for timely first pay and the national average of 66% for non-monetary decision timeliness. A little difficult for you all to see up here, but as you can see, the Virginia now ranks in the top 20 for both first pay timeliness and decision timeliness, and the majority of the states ranked higher than Virginia have considerably smaller workforces. For the second quarter of this year, 83.5% of all first payments and decisions were issued in under 21 days, a core performance metric set by the U.S. Department of Labor. This is a remarkable stride for VEC, considering in January of 2023, Virginia was nationally ranked 51st out of 53 for prompt decisions and 53rd out of 53 for prompt first payments. This accomplishment reflects our diligence and commitment to VEC's operational turnaround, leading to faster delivery and decision-making for those in need of unemployment benefits. This is a slide we've shared before you, showing the sheer volume of work done at our agency. Since January of 2022, the VEC team has completed over 1.3 million work items. I'm pleased to report that the VEC has reached a point where our current inventories are considered manageable working inventories rather than backlogs, depicting the post-pandemic return to normal. I cannot say enough to express just the day in and day out grind and effort the staff has undertaken at the VEC. Through overtime, working Saturdays, holidays, I can say myself as a 20-year veteran of state government, their determination and their putting our customers and the citizens first has truly motivated and inspired me, and I truly publicly thank each and every one of the members of the team at VEC. We continue to ensure the unemployment insurance program is fortified against fraud. We are proud to be the first state to implement a system known as PIN Drop, an enhanced phone-based fraud detection system in our customer contact center. This effort has caught the attention of other states, and VEC staff was recently asked to present about our use of PIN Drop at a conference with other counterpart agencies from across the country. PIN Drop has quickly proven its ability to detect and mitigate potential fraud much earlier in the process, in the claims process. I've talked about the success of ID.me in helping our customers access benefits online. However, ID.me is a significant deterrent and mitigator of fraud. It is a federally trusted identity verification tool that uses a combination of authentication methods and identity proofing flows, enabling users to configure multiple multi-factor authentications, providing one of the highest level of assurances established by the National Institute of Standards and Technology. These standards do surpass the U.S. Department of Labor requirements. When it comes to prosecuting fraud, VEC continues to work closely with state and federal authorities, including the FBI and the U.S. Department of Labor's Office of the Inspector General. As you may have seen in multiple news reports, we are actively assisting in prosecutions and continue to recover pandemic relief funds and hold those who have defrauded government accountable. Moving to our funding outlook, the VEC's largest source of funding is the U.S. Department of Labor base grant. Over the past several years, pandemic-era funding has expired, and we have returned to pre-pandemic base grant funding levels. During the 2024 session, the Governor and General Assembly adopted a proposal to establish a revenue-neutral administrative fee. This proposal will allow the agency to develop a revenue source to support critical operations for staffing and IT. The fee will go into effect in January of 2025 and is expected to generate approximately $16 million a year by reducing employer taxes by a corresponding amount to the newly created fee. Additionally, the VEC has been authorized to receive a Treasury loan to cover necessary administrative operational overhead costs, if needed. At this time, we continue to exercise fiscal discipline in an effort to mitigate this need. I want to thank the General Assembly for working with us on these items and for your overall support of the VEC. I'll briefly touch on the trust fund data. This slide shows that the trust fund has remained relatively stable over the past 2 years. We do expect solvency to improve slightly to 57%. Overall, with low claim volume, we have been able to maintain funding levels. The trust fund continues to maintain a healthy balance compared to historical levels. Solvency, which is based on recent claim history, is at 57% due to the impact from the pandemic claims, which are still impacting the calculation. We expect this to continue to improve as tax rates return to normal and pandemic claim volume is removed from the calculations. As you may recall, tax rates were frozen to protect employers from pandemic-related claims. Tax rates will be unfrozen as of December 31st, 2024. Tax rates are largely comprised of an experience rating that is unique to each employer based on their claim history. This slide shows how tax rates have remained low over the past few years. These will adjust as we return to normal. Employers will still be able to benefit from lower rates based on their own unique claim history. In closing, I again thank every member of the VEC team who deserves the credit for these outcomes. I thank you all and the entirety of the Virginia General Assembly for for your partnership and willingness to help us solve some big challenges, such as establishing a reliable long-term funding model. And I'd also wish to thank Governor Youngkin for his support and commitment to prioritizing government efficiency and building a prototype of how government can, in fact, move fast and solution our way forward to meet the demands of our citizens. The VEC is well positioned and on our way to enter the top 10 in timeliness for both first pay and decisions. We are on our way to meet the DOL standards for appeals and to possess the resiliency and readiness to respond to future economic events. As I've shared from the VEC's great accomplishments and achievements, from our fraud prevention efforts to innovations in contact center technology, timeliness rankings, and the operational agility now ingrained in our agency, the VEC is now positioned as a national model in public sector operational excellence. We are well positioned to meet our ultimate and vital purpose as an agency, which is quickly and efficiently providing temporary unemployment assistance, putting dislocated workers on a path towards a prompt reemployment. I very much thank you for your time and opportunity to present today. Open to answer any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. First, just as you were starting your presentation, we were joined by a couple of folks that I want to acknowledge. First, our Secretary of Labor, Brian Slater. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Secretary. We're also joined by our subcommittee members, Julia Hammond and Senator Distaff. For my colleagues up here, I have only chaired meetings in the House before, and the Senate has some very different technology. So you all have tablets that have a request to speak button. I don't know, we test drove it up here. I don't know where that goes, but I can't see it. So just attempt to get my attention another way. And Senator Distaff has the benefit of sitting next to me, so he already requested to ask a question, so I'll turn it over to him.
Mitch, thank you. Great presentation. I know Jeff is behind you somewhere there. Jeff, thank you for what you've done and what you do for VEC. I know that you've fielded thousands of calls from my office over the last few years, and Mitch, you've done a phenomenal job as well. So, Secretary, I wanted you to hear that. The question I have is one that we've had continuously, and it continues to pop up every once in a while, and it's with those who are incarcerated in our jails or prisons who are finding a way to continually apply for unemployment benefits. I know our sheriff has at times brought up a bunch of checks coming from VEC to the jail, and our school board members and city council members have had their information used and their checks sent to our jail as well, in the name of other individuals who are getting their checks. It's strange because I didn't know you could accept payments while you're in jail, but I get it. So what are we doing to crack down on that? How have we solved that issue? And are we still seeing issues on that?
On the whole, first I do need to say, Madam Chair, Senator Distaff, and Jeff will be upset for me saying this. I had in my notes that I was going to thank him publicly, and he made me remove it. So he does deserve to be recognized as well. So, Jeff, I apologize. So, in regards to your question, it was a very large undertaking. I won't say it's completely over because a lot of those payments are still on the books of many reimbursable employers. What I can say is that we absolutely continue to work with every one of the governmental agencies and reimbursable employers to identify identity theft and have them removed from their accounts. That's something we are very actively working on. That includes meetings, in-person meetings, virtual meetings, wherever we can meet these reimbursable employers and government entities to work through these and reconcile, we do. There's no question that that was a problem of significance during the pandemic, and I can say our degree of fraud at this point is by no means what it was at that time. The methods that we've implemented are catching fraud much earlier, and without going into the detail of how we identify these fraudulent methods, I can say it's working.
Sorry, great, Madam Chair, great. Thank you very much, Mitch, appreciate you.
Thank you, Senator Eben.
Thank you, Commissioner Mellis, for your hard work and your team's hard work, and especially for those people impacted by the Boar's Head layoffs and the hurricane. I did have a few follow-ups from the presentation. You mentioned a 90% success rate for the callback feature. So I assume that means if I were to call VEC and choose to get a call back 9 times out of 10, when VEC calls back, they connect with that customer? Is that what that means?
It's really dependent on the person to pick up. So we will try 3 times at minimum, yes. And if they do not pick up in those 3 times, that would be one that is not a 90%. We make a diligent effort to tell them exactly what phone number is going to be coming from, which I think has helped us have that 90%.
Great. And if I might, Madam Chair, to follow up, you mentioned 19,000 appeals expected in 2024, and I missed how that compares with 2023.
Sure. I think 2023 is approximately 12,000.
So we have more appeals this coming year, the year we're in, and I was just wondering, are we equipped to deal with that volume in terms of resources?
Yeah, I would say yes. Primarily in the realm of the technological advancements we've done. Our focus has been what can we improve using the technology that we have access to and process. A lot of these are process changes that don't cost anything. That's our first focus, is how do we change the process? You know, some of it can seem mundane, but sometimes how you order a file from one person to the next can make a massive difference. So we go into such granular detail as that from a process standpoint, and then we start looking at technology, and then if that can't be resolved and we need more bodies, then we absolutely do look at that aspect. The VEC's challenges in the last several years have been related to funding, particularly as the pandemic funds have dried up, and so we are working to be extremely careful on our spending, and so most of these changes were not costly.
Okay, and that leads me to my next question, which is about funding. Can you remind us, in the last budget that the General Assembly adopted, the 2-year budget, did we grant VEC everything that Governor Youngkin had requested, or did we fall short of his request?
I recall the funding absolutely went through, which was the rate that will be provided. The employer rate will be decreased, and that net difference will go to the agency. It did get through the General Assembly, as did approval to have a Treasury loan if needed.
Okay, thank you. And Madam Chair, if I could follow up with one more question.
Yes.
There's a topic I was going to bring up later in the agenda for members of the subcommittee, but I was not really familiar with Virginia's rate of recipiency, and I'm told by the National Employment Law Project that we have a relatively lower rate, like that it's been about 16% of unemployed workers who actually receive UI compensation, and that the accepted national benchmark, at least in their standards, was about 50%. So I was just wondering whether you comment on it today, but if I know it's something the full committee is going to take up, but I don't know if you have any thoughts on it to start, or if you just want to take it to us at the next meeting.
Sure. Madam Chair, Senator Eben, I think, as all things, it's a complicated issue. Virginia has a lower unemployment rate traditionally. That plays into the rate. We also are seeing many more quits and discharges that don't qualify for unemployment, or simply individuals applying that just may not qualify for unemployment. That plays into the rate as well. States also have very different eligibility criteria, and so that's not a measure that is standard across the 50 states, depending on how each state determines whether they're going to give unemployment or not. So definitely a lot of variables, I think, there related to the rate. There's certainly opportunities to figure out how that rate could change, but I would say it's more complicated than just comparing a 50% to maybe a 16%, particularly in reviewing whether or not, for example, our pandemic-related claims somehow in that calculation or not. I don't know offhand, and that'd be something we'd want to dig into.
Thank you, Senator Eben. Delegate Marshall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of questions. Back, if I look at your chart on page 5, the worst of the worst was in 2020 when you had the tsunami of claims come in. Well, one of the things we had heard is our software was not up to date. Have we updated the software?
The software, so the complexity of saying singularly that it's a software system, I think that's a difficult question to answer. The software is actually, I would say, fine, meaning with the advent of ID.me, it's resolved our main primary issue, which was entering into the software system. What we're not hearing is that once people are in the software system, that it's not working for them or it's not intuitive. So that's for the customer facing. For the internal facing, what we've done is leverage what's called robotic process automation, which works with our system to essentially digitize manual processes. So, for example, scheduling of hearings can be done, in 1/10 of the time compared to somebody physically picking up the phone and contacting them or emailing them. So we continue to make improvements to the system, absolutely. And that's, I would say any legacy system has to continually be improved, and we are doing that. But I would say it is in very good shape in terms of how it's functioning. We don't experience issues related to our VUIS as its known system.
Okay, thank you for that. Follow-up. So I know you get information out to all the localities about unemployment rate, and so this is not a good thing, but Danville in August was the highest in the state at 6%. So one of the things we hear always is the unemployment rate, but the things we don't hear is about the participation rate. And so I know statewide, I hear that is what is about 2/3 of the eligible people that can work are working. Do you provide that broken down by localities?
I need to phone a friend because our economists are actually housed in the Virginia Works organization. I'll reach back and see if anyone has an answer, but that's information we could get from the Virginia Works agency, which is our partner.
Could you send that? I'm sure the other folks would like to see that also, but to see what their participation rate is by locality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I have a few questions, I think, following up on questions that Senator Eben asked. And before I get to those, I do want to highlight some of your slides about the first pay and decision timeliness metrics and just comment on how those have gone up substantially. I remember, I think it was the last meeting, if not, it was certainly the meeting before that, where we were not meeting the DLL standards. And now we are. So I really do want to commend you and your team for your efforts on that. I think that's obviously we're taking steps in the right direction. But I think coming back to Senator Eben's question on the recipients rate, I believe in 2022, the General Assembly passed a bill that requires the VEC to examine metrics related to recipiency and establish a mechanism to help assess the adequacy of benefits each year. And I think in looking at the DOL database, it looks like Virginia actually ranks 46th in recipiency. So I understand sort of all the things you said to him. There's differences, but 46 is maybe not where we want to be. So can you tell me a little bit more about your work related to examining those metrics and establishing a mechanism to assess the benefits?
In terms of the recipiency rate, I mean, I would repeat the same, which is the complexity of the calculation. For example, if Virginia has a set standard on when it does or does not provide unemployment compensation, and in other states is much more lenient, those are not two comparable states. And so that's essentially what it comes down to on a majority of the recipient issue is they're different across the country. But there are also other complexities to the calculation, and certainly we're open to looking at it and digging in as to what those calculations are, what factors into it. There's a lot of DOL reporting that happens at our level, a lot of DOL reporting. Sometimes it can be as simple as how we calculate something versus how another state might be calculating something. As much as we wish all states were calculating things the same, they're not. And so that's something we could 100% work with DOL on to see whether or not our calculations are being done how they're supposed to be done, or are we being too conservative in how we make that assessment.
Look forward to continuing to share information on that. I think also coming back to a previous meeting, one of the primary purposes of this subcommittee is to monitor the implementation of recommendations of the 21 JLARC report. And I know I had asked a former commissioner for quarterly updates on the status of implementation and was hoping that the members can receive those going forward as well, so we can monitor how those recommendations have been implemented.
Sure. We can absolutely provide quarterly updates to the committee on the state of the JLARC recommendations. I will say, on the whole, I think we're doing fantastic, which is essentially we've done all of them except the ones, a few of them related to IT. I think it's a handful, maybe 7, that are specific to our IT. And just to be as transparent as possible, we have been focused on keeping the lights on and getting through our appeals. These are multi-year projects. All of them have been started. But for example, once a piece of legislation gets passed that requires our IT division to pivot and implement a piece of legislation, then other things that are in line for the limited resources in our IT functioning, they do get left. Not to say that that's how the JLARC recommendations got done, but the resources in our IT are limited, and I don't think that's unique to Virginia Employment Commission. Many agencies struggle to keep Java developers. We are transitioning, and one of the JLARC recommendations is to ensure that people are effectively trained in the system. That's something that we're actively doing. But it isn't a binary movement. Training for these types of things is difficult as you train and you don't always retain some of that talent that you're training. So these are challenges that I think information technology, legacy systems, any non-cloud-based system is experiencing, that you have to have people on your staff to do these massive lifts. Many organizations are moving to cloud-based systems that are subscription as a service. And that's something certainly in the future that the VEC would likely want to consider for their next modernization.
Thank you. I think there are a number of questions I have around the call center. I know you're adding a lot of staff, and I think you've made a number of improvements as well. The ID.me has certainly reduced the call volume in terms of that was a huge issue people had and not being able to log into the system and a reason people were calling, as well as the other improvements that you talked about that have been made to both the online system and the call system. I know I had shared previously the experiences of my constituents and even myself at the last meeting calling and not being able to reach someone, but also not reaching the callback feature, coming back to Senator Eben's question about that 90% success rate of the callback function. Do we have, I know it's complicated, I know there are a lot of things here, I know that it wouldn't be a good use of taxpayer dollars to staff the call center such that every call ever is answered by a human being, but I guess I'm interested in seeing how many calls are able to get through versus not get through or not get a call back, because we can't really, I don't think we can measure how we're doing unless we know where we are.
Sure. 94% of first-time callers will get through. That's the simplest number I have off the top of my head, and doing our operations meeting weekly. I would say since December of last year, I think we are in a dramatically different position. The callback feature, I believe, was after December that was implemented, so that you wouldn't have experienced that. But the rates of the decreases in call volume alone and the addition of capacity has dramatically changed the customer experience calling our call center. Oftentimes we had a lot of inquiries from your offices, from the governor's office, and from other entities saying our folks are having trouble getting through. We're not getting those. They just don't exist. We're not getting those complaints. Our constituent inquiries are usually much more about very complicated appeals that play into how much money somebody was making versus how much the payout is, rather than I can't get through to the call center. And that was our goal, truly to solve the problem of people calling because they couldn't get through to their online account. We resolved that, and the call volume continues to decline, and it's not just because of ID.me. I believe our outreach efforts, our website, even though we're building a new website, we have made substantial changes to our current website to ensure that the information that is needed most accessibly on the front end of somebody's situation is there. We divided it up very simply into individuals who are unemployed, employers, and those seeking employment, and made it so that you're in one of those three channels, you're going to get the information that you need. So I also credit the communications and outreach effort for reducing the call volume.
Thank you. I think there's a question down here. Darcy?
Yes. So, thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I just want to thank you and the agency so much for everything that you've done for the workers, especially, at Boar's Head. But now, with Helene and everything, I've done a swing Friday and Saturday in the New River Valley and far southwest. And so for the workers and stuff, I really, really appreciate that. I know the workers at the UAW plant, they had 3 workers that got severely lost stuff. So, but on the other hand, the community also has been stepping up and everything. So I just want to thank you and the agency for everything that y'all have done for the workers in both incidents. Now, I do have a question though, and this is on the trust fund balances and solvency. So, and I know you can't predict the future or anything, but is there like a goal as to a time frame as to when you think that our percentage of solvency will be higher like it was pre-pandemic?
I'll answer the part that I feel comfortable answering, and then I will, to answer the question, the solvency, one of the challenges with the solvency calculation is that it's still including a period of time during the pandemic.
Okay. All right.
You want to add anything to that?
Madam Chair, Jeff Ryan with the VEC. It does use a 3-year look back. So the pandemic era programs ran through the end of 21. We're now at the end of 24. So the bulk of those claims will roll off next year. So this time next year, you should see a substantial bump up barring any unexpected major economic event.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I have, I think, 1 or 2 other questions. I'm very interested in the Customer Advisory Council because I think the feedback of customers who use the system, who've used both the technology and also unemployment insurance is very beneficial to helping us move forward. And so I'm wondering if that next meeting has been set.
It has not. So it was set for the middle of September, and we did cancel it as a result of folks needing to be on the ground. We haven't reset it at this point. I just genuinely want to express how many of our folks are on the ground, and our call center is experienced. The folks there in Van Sant, Virginia, many of them have no power. Many of them also lost, their water in an assortment of challenges, either themselves or their friends. And I'm proudly able to say they're coming to work and putting their public service face up front. So we're really, really proud of that as well.
Definitely, thank you, and we appreciate their work and their service to the Commonwealth as well.
So I apologize. So the committee will absolutely reconvene as soon as we can get some of Michael Abraham is the Chief Customer Advocate, and as soon as he comes home, if you will, we will be setting up that meeting.
Got it. And then looking forward, I know you mentioned in your slide presentation there's going to be a new website launching on January 1st. And I know user experience is obviously a huge part of that, and I'm sure that's going in on the front end and the design now to make sure that it's a user-friendly system. But I guess I'm curious what might happen after it launches to make sure that there's still some sort of feedback loop. I know there was a user sort of IT feasibility report due earlier this year. I can't remember if that's an annual requirement or sort of what mechanisms are in place to make sure we're continuing to solicit that feedback from users about the website and how it's working.
Yeah, in terms of long-term user experience, we rely on ensuring our staff that work on the website are continuously trained in the most up-to-date accessibility and user experience functions. And so it is housed in-house. We will be managing the website in-house and relying on our IT staff to manage it, or our web service staff.
I guess I just wanted to make sure, usually sometimes when websites roll out, there can be some issues and just making sure that there's a feedback loop to make sure you're continuing to solicit feedback on how it's working.
Oh, at launch, absolutely. I mean, we're launching with a vendor, and so that vendor is staying with us until we turn it over to us. So in terms of standing up a new website, we're 100% supported by the vendor, but there is a transition period after the website goes live. Once you've worked out the basic kinks, then it does go to managed in-house.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions from the subcommittee? I do not see any. Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Thank you all very much.
Next on our agenda, we have other business. And for the first part, I think I'm going to turn it over to our Uber Chair, Senator Eben, to...
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I received a communication from the National Employment Law Project that was addressed to all of us, but I don't know that everyone got it in their office yet. So I just wanted to summarize it, just to throw it out there for people so they'll be aware, and we'll get them copies in writing for before we take any actions. But it was addressed to the members of the Unemployment Insurance Subcommittee, and it said last year, thanks to the collective efforts of the General Assembly, the Governor, and the VEC and key worker and business stakeholders, the state made improvements to the unemployment insurance entitlement decisions, appeals, and overpayments. And it's footnoted as with bipartisan bills from myself, Delegate Ware, Senator DeSteff, Delegate Price, Senator Bagby, and Delegate Tran. And they said, I'm especially appreciative of VEC's clear and consistent communication before, during, and after the legislative process. While our Commonwealth's UI system may not be yet best in class, last year reinforced her belief that Virginia has the right process to get there. And she suggested at this meeting today, she asked that members resume the process to consider ways to improve upon Virginia's low UI recipiency. And the recipiency rate is the percentage of unemployed workers who are receiving UI compensation. We heard from Commissioner Mellis, as an aside, that there are factors that go into that. But the letter continues that the recipiency rate has barely reached 16% in the last 2 years, and says the well-accepted benchmark is 50% or more. It says low recipiency not only means Virginia's workers are not benefiting from UI, but that the Commonwealth's business and economy are not either, suggesting that it's a loss, with the UI having a local fiscal multiplier of about 1.9. And it goes on, and we'll get you a copy of the letter. But what I wanted to bring was it sets up some suggestions about the JLARC report that we had not yet totally implemented. But one of the things it mentions is the income disregard, that amount that was set nearly about 20 years ago. And this year, and I think we'll hear from them during the public comment period, Social Action Linking Together, or SALT, convened a working group to address Virginia's low recipiency, and the group, after study, endorsed numerous potential solutions, several of which originated as JLARC policy options to improve our recipiency. One of the items does not require action from this or the larger committee, is to convene the advisory committee authorized under Code Section 30-222E to evaluate our low recipiency, which was JLARC policy option 7. And just to refresh members of the committee's memories, there are really 3 committees. There's this subcommittee, which was set to evaluate progress of the VEC. There's a larger committee that meets at least once a year. We're supposed to meet 4 times a year, and we haven't quite met that yet. And then there's an advisory committee, which doesn't really have legislators. It's more economists, worker representatives, management representatives, business representatives, that I appointed in conjunction with our former vice chair, former Delegate Byron, and they have not met yet. And we did not appoint a chairman. The code didn't provide for that. So I've asked them to convene to evaluate our low recipiency. They can't take any action without the General Assembly, but they can advise us. And then the other 2 options that I got from SALT were to pass legislation to establish an automatic increase or make a one-time increase to our UI benefits amounts based on when we last increased it. And thirdly was to increase the income disregard. And I know there are speakers when we get to public comment who can address it. But I did get legislation prepared on those topics, and I'm only interested in moving forward if we can get some consensus either from this subcommittee or more likely from the larger committee when it meets, so there'll be notice out there. But I want it to be bipartisan. Last year, I think it was Delegate Ware and I found some consensus and passed legislation that the governor found merit in. And those are, I just wanted to kind of tee that up by announcing that I would be convening the advisory committee, asking them to meet. And I had one other item, if I might, Madam Chair. We have a lot of committees and interim commissions, and this one was set up as one of the JLARC recommendations to meet 4 times a year to monitor the VEC's progress coming out of the pandemic and out of the JLARC study. And I'm wondering if it might make more sense to combine the powers and duties of this subcommittee with the full committee. And if we were to do that, the thing I do take note of is we have Ms. Hammond representing business and Ms. Kraus-Mays representing workers, and they're not on the full committee. So if we were to absorb our responsibilities into the larger committee, I think we would have to try and have them serve on the larger committee if there was consensus for that. So I wanted to throw it up for discussion because we're supposed to be meeting 4 times a year. The other committee once a year. It's a lot of meetings. I'm just wondering if the larger committee couldn't handle it all, or if people prefer to have this as a distinct and separate subcommittee.
I think also to that I would add, I believe this subcommittee is also supposed to sunset next year, so we may
We could do it for 1 year.
We could continue it through in the larger committee, but I also want to open it up to other.
I think your perspective is important, so we want to have people who have practical experience, whether it's from business or from workers, make sure their input has a seat at the table either way, whether it's separate or not.
I see nodding.
Madam Chair, I appreciate the comments of the senator. I think while we might not always agree on policy, we absolutely agree that this is a very important committee, and extending it, or at least allowing us to have a more formal role in your actions, is greatly appreciated by both employers and employees, and those who represent employees.
Do any of the legislative members have thoughts on whether we should combine into just having the one committee or can maintain a separate sub?
This is my first meeting,
Okay.
so
We don't want to stop you from.
I would say, let's see what happens at the next meeting here of the subcommittee, and then normally you send all your work down to the subcommittees. When it goes up to the main committee, that's where you make your policy decisions, whether you move forward or not.
Okay. There were some legislative proposals, and I think Marvy has a slide on them, but and I know there were members of the public who wanted to comment on them as well.
Okay. Can we pull up that slide? So I believe all of our commission members have these a summary page as well as drafts before us. I don't know if these have been shared more broadly yet.
Yes, Madam Chair. Each of the members should have in their packet of documents 4 potential bill drafts that reflect 4 different policy options that Senator Eben mentioned. The first one is the document ending in 0434. These don't have bill numbers yet as they haven't been introduced. That first option would be to adjust unemployment insurance benefit amounts annually based on a statewide economic metric. So there can be conversations about whether to do that annually and how best to show those changes to members of the public. Option 2 is to enact a one-time increase in the maximum unemployment insurance benefit amount. That's the document ending in 0535. And for that proposal, we would have a new weekly benefits table as part of the bill, and numbers to be discussed for how much to increase one time the maximum benefit amount are found right after that document in a table. Option 3 is the document ending in 0536, and that is a policy proposal to create a dependent allowance in addition to weekly unemployment insurance benefits. And then the fourth bill draft before you ends in 0541, and that's increasing the income disregard amount, the amount that unemployed workers can earn weekly before their UI compensation is reduced. That changes the amount from $50 to $100. Happy to answer any questions you may have about the statute or the drafting of these, and the agency may be able to answer more specific questions about the numbers and implementation. Thank you.
Thank you, Marvin. Senator Eben?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, and I don't know if it's the agency or Marvy, but what is the current maximum unemployment benefit in Virginia that we have today? Because that would make a big difference in knowing whether we should increase it by $100 or index it or something.
Madam Chair, Senator Eben, Jeff Ryan, it's $378 a week is the maximum current allowable benefit.
So would that be, so what's the equivalent on an annual basis? That would be less than, what is that, less than $30,000 or $40,000 a year?
It works out to probably, they can only get it for up to 26 weeks, which ends up being just under $10,000 that they could get over the 26 weeks.
And maybe you could let us know when the full committee meets. Thank you. I think it might be about,
That's per year.
yeah, so 10,000 or 20,000 a year rate but for 6 months of unemployment. Maybe you could let us know at the next full commission meeting how that tracks with other states to know how, how we're doing comparatively.
Yes, absolutely. Be glad to do that, Senator Eben.
And that has not increased in a long time?
It has not.
Okay, thank you.
Delegate Marshall?
Yeah, just FYI, I've served on Labor and Commerce for a while, and former Delegate Sam Nixon would bring a bill each year to increase that. And so Sam hadn't been here for a while, and I think that was even, before the pandemic. So every year Sam would bring that bill forward to increase it basically a little bit less than the cost of living. So FYI.
Senator DeSteph?
Madam Chair, thank you. Mel, if you don't mind, or Jeff, can you tell us the last time that this was actually increased? So when was it set to $378 per year?
Madam Chair, Senator DeSteph, we believe it was 2014 was the last time it was changed, and we can get you some details on how much it was increased at that time.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Madam Chair. Thank you.
So I think this was intended to be a start of this conversation so we can ask these questions, get more information, consider this with more input and feedback. I know that we have some folks in the audience who may wish to speak on these as well as generally, so I'm inclined to perhaps skip over, or I guess we could quickly do the electronic participation policy. I don't anticipate that will take too long. So we do have an electronic participation policy in front of us. This mirrors what some other committees have adopted. I know I was most recently at the Joint Subcommittee on Tax Preferences that adopted this same policy. It basically gives the ability, the statutory authority for an individual member to participate remotely, provided that there is a physical quorum and subject to certain restrictions, such if it's for a personal matter, that can only be limited to 25% of the meetings or greater. It also gives us the ability to hold an all-virtual meeting. I don't imagine that we would be doing that, but I generally appreciate, given the uncertainty of weather or potential scheduling conflicts and the ability to, inability to perhaps find a quorum, I like having the flexibility of being able to do that if we need to continue our work and our business. So are there any questions on this policy? Is there a motion to adopt the policy?
So moved. I think it's similar to other committees that we have.
Yes. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Be a nay on that. I just think that we should be here in person to interact with everybody and hear testimony and follow up.
Understand. Any abstentions? Okay. So that motion carries. So now we will move to the public comment portion. Anyone wishing to speak is welcome to come to the lectern, and we will have a 3-minute time limit.
Hello, I'm Sophie McGinley. I'm a labor policy analyst with the Commonwealth Institute for Fiscal Analysis, and I'm part of the Unemployment Insurance Working Group led by Social Action Linking Together, or SALT. Thank you, Senator Eben, for the invitation to be here today, and thank you to the entire committee for hosting this important conversation. So today I'd like to talk about Virginia's unemployment insurance system and why it needs our attention. First, we have to remember that UI is exactly that, insurance. Just as you wouldn't hesitate to use your health insurance if you broke a leg, UI is designed to be used when you lose your job. It's a system we all pay into through our employers for those dreaded moments when we need it most. Think of UI as a spare tire for your financial vehicle. Spare tires are not meant to fully replace your regular tires. They're intended only to get to the repair shop. When you lose your job, it's just like getting a flat tire on your journey. UI is designed to keep you moving until you can get back on the road with a new job. But right now, Virginia's spare tire is old, underinflated, and too small for the job. And clearly I like analogies, so we'll keep going with that. So here's the issue. Only 16 out of 100 unemployed Virginians actually receive UI benefits. But studies tell us that at least 50 out of 100 unemployed workers are entitled to UI. That means at least 34 people out of 100 are left without their critical insurance benefits when they lose their job. And for those who do receive benefits, the maximum amount is $378 per week, an amount set back in 2014 that hasn't kept up with rising costs. And last year in 2023, the Virginia average weekly benefit amount was $349, so really close to that maximum. So to make this really personal, let's consider my own situation as a labor policy analyst at a nonprofit earning $66,000 a year. If I were to lose my job tomorrow, I'd receive $378 per week in UI benefits, or about $1,638 a month before taxes. That's less than a third of my previous income, barely enough to cover rent alone in many parts of our state, let alone food, utilities, and other necessities. In my case, it would cover my half of rent and about a week of groceries for the month. So we have 3 key ideas, each proposed as policy options by JLARC, to improve this situation. The first is a one-time increase. This would be like immediately putting air in our spare tire. We could raise the maximum weekly benefit from $378 to $478, giving workers like myself an extra $433 per month to cover basic needs. The next is automatic annual adjustments. Great. Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Okay. Yes. Ms. Hammond.
Can I ask a question of the speaker?
Yes, of course.
And you can just nod. Did the remainder of your comments endorse the 4 legislative proposals we have before us? Thank you.
Do you have your comments in writing by any chance? Yes. I'll see you afterwards for a copy. Thank you.
I think also if you had, there's not a long line, so if you wanted to come back and finish, sorry, I think the dinging surprised us all, but you have friends, we can,
The House didn't have those dings.
it does not, no, but maybe we do since session.
We just have the volume up on ours, which are probably muted.
Yeah, I do have the ability to actually mute people, which is
Amazing.
power.
I used to chair a planning commission, so the 3 minutes I know can be a hard stop. Hello again, I'm back to talk about the second key idea, which is automatic annual adjustments. This is like setting up regular tire maintenance. By tying benefit amounts to the state's average weekly wage, we can ensure that UI keeps pace with the cost of living over time, which we all know is increasing. The third is increasing the income disregard. Right now, if a worker earns more than $50 a week from part-time work, which is about 4 hours at minimum wage, not even a single shift, their UI benefits start to decrease. By raising this income disregard, we can encourage people to take part-time work without losing their benefits, helping them connect to full employment. These changes could make a real difference. Remember, UI is not just about helping individual workers, it's about keeping our entire economic vehicle moving. When unemployed people have money to spend, it helps keep local businesses afloat and our economy running smoothly. Just as we wouldn't want people to avoid necessary medical treatment because of costs, we shouldn't want workers to avoid using their unemployment insurance when they need it most. And now that's the end of my comments. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? If not, is there a motion to adjourn? Oh, Senator Eben?
Just in closing, I wanted to ask Marvy, since those bills were prepared as drafts, but they're not endorsed by anyone, are we allowed to post them on our website as drafts? Just to have them out there before the full committee meets so that the general public could see the language?
I think we can go ahead and post those just as draft documents. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we could watermark them as draft and put them on the either on the subcommittee website or the full committee website, so that members of the public who want to weigh in know this isn't the last time to comment on them, that the full committee is likely to meet will meet this year, this calendar year, and I intend to bring them up further for discussion at the full committee. And members of the business community or labor community or consumers or whomever should feel free to prepare comments and either email them to individual members of the full committee or prepare to testify at our next meeting.
Thank you, Senator. An excellent point to post the drafts. And I will say, I don't think we know when that full commission meeting will be yet, but I would imagine a doodle will be going out sometime in the near future to find a date for that, and we will all be notified. Are there any other comments? Oh.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Bashirs. I applied for unemployment insurance in July of 2021. Didn't receive a PIN, had to file a legislative inquiry to be able to get a PIN number. Then the back pay got denied. I submitted an appeal, but it was 16 months afterwards, and they just said I should have used the phone. I tried to explain to them that I did. Second appeal, I applied for the second appeal so I could submit the phone records. And then I didn't technically request a hearing, so they just reviewed it and then said that it was denied again. So then I came here last year to this same meeting and got somebody appointed, right? And I thought I was, gonna have somebody actually help, but the person they put me in contact with reviewed it, said that the people had made the right decision, and I tried so hard to explain to them the situation that I did call. I tried to put my PIN number through there. I'd reached out to Senator Eben a couple of times, but then your email changed and I couldn't get replies back from that either eventually. And I tried calling lawyers to get my phone record subpoena so that I could prove to the agency that I had tried to call dozens, if not hundreds of times. I don't understand why it's been so hard to get the help that I need through this process is something that I should have been entitled to. It was 16 and a half weeks of supplemental unemployment my employer agreed to give me. It's not like I was, falsely accused of anything. I just haven't been able to get any of that. And it's been a very, very long road. Still haven't been able to get back on my feet since then, right? That's $30,000 close to that has been gone. And I'm not here today to try to get anything from me at this point. I give up. I just can't let that disappointment and any sort of hope come in again to be let down. What I would like to see changed is there was a piece of paper that I was eventually given after she told me that after I came here and was referred to somebody particularly to help me. She told me that it wasn't going to happen. They made the right decision, and I'm sorry. Good. She told me that they made the right decision, and I asked her, what was my next recourse? I tried to call an attorney to get something there, but no attorneys will even take the case because they've been through it with the unemployment agency as well. Then after that, she sends me by email a piece of paper that I get to fill out. So I got 7 weeks of claims that I tried to submit, I put them in, and she submitted them in the system for me. Guess what? They got denied because they were too late. No special attention given, nothing of that nature. What I want to see happen, and what you can make actually happen, is to make sure that somebody has access to that piece of paper from the beginning. That's all. Thank you.
Certainly sorry for what you've experienced in your struggle accessing the system. Are there any further comments in the public or from the dais? If not, so we will meet as a full commission again before the end of the year. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Second. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you so much.
The Senate of Virginia, Richmond, Virginia.